The Galactic Council was certain. Humanity would crumble. The unprovable human resistance, their meager technology, and their primitive civilization were no match for the collective might of the galaxy's most powerful empires. Their cities had burned. The blood of their people spilled across the stars in a violent but inevitable end. This was the moment the Council had been waiting for. Earth, a backwater planet in a distant sector, had resisted long enough. The only choice left was for them to surrender or face complete annihilation. In the Council chamber, the air was thick with tension. The alien leaders, a cacophony of species from across the galaxy, leaned forward in their seats. Some appeared smug, confident of victory, their eyes glowing with pride. Others, quieter races, braced themselves for the moment of finality. All were certain that Earth's defiance was futile. It had to be. "Prepare the transmission," declared Zvar, the most influential leader in the room, a towering insectoid with glowing eyes. His voice was low but commanding. He had been the architect of this galactic strategy. To him, humanity was nothing more than a minor inconvenience, an insignificant threat waiting to be snuffed out. Earth has no more allies. The message will be clear. Surrender, or we will destroy you. An endless holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room. A map of the galaxy projected across the chamber, and Earth's position was a lonely, flickering dot in the farthest reaches. The Council's elite warships and fleets had swarmed into the solar system, overwhelming human defenses with shocking efficiency. The military advisors surrounding the Council exchanged satisfied glances, knowing the final piece of the puzzle was falling into place. On Earth, cities lay in ruins. The most advanced warships humanity had ever built were battered and burned. The airwaves were filled with whispers of surrender. It was only a matter of time before the final broadcast would go out, demanding the planet's unconditional submission. The fate of humankind seemed sealed. But the Council, so sure of their victory, could not see the storm brewing just outside their view. "Send the message," Zvar continued. His antennae twitched in anticipation. "Make them feel the weight of their defeat. Let them see their future, subjugation or total obliteration." The transmission was sent. It blared across the galaxy, an announcement for all to hear. But to Zvar's surprise, Earth's response wasn't the submission he had expected. The broadcast cut through the airwaves, but not with the desperation he anticipated. Instead, it was calm, cold, and strangely confident. "Your fleet will not succeed," came the voice of Admiral Clark, the human commander, her voice cutting through the static. "We've made mistakes before. We've underestimated you before. But we are not as helpless as you think. Prepare yourselves." The chamber fell silent. Zvar's eyes narrowed. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice rising in disbelief. "Is this a trick? A final plea for mercy?" The holographic display flickered again, this time showing something new. Hundreds of blips appeared at the edge of the solar system. They weren't alien ships. They weren't reinforcements from the galaxy's other empires. They were human warships, and they were coming fast. At first, there was confusion, then awe. It didn't make sense. Earth had been decimated. Their forces were in disarray. How could they possibly mount another attack? But the ships kept coming, an armada of unimaginable size. And with them, something no one had expected. Human technology, yes, but unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sleek, futuristic warships that hummed with the power of a race that was ready to prove they weren't so easily crushed. The Council leaders scrambled to comprehend the situation. Their arrogance faltered as they watched the unknown ships approach. They weren't ready. They hadn't prepared for this. A small, insignificant species had just pulled the greatest of all gambits, the greatest of all surprises. "Impossible," Zvar whispered, almost as if he couldn't believe his own thoughts. But the truth was undeniable. Earth was not going to surrender. Earth was coming for them. And there was nothing the Galactic Council could do to stop it. The stars trembled in the quiet of space, as though the universe itself held its breath. The Galactic Council had expected a whimper, a plea for mercy. Instead, they were met with the full force of Earth's wrath. 100 ships, then 200, then 500, each one a gleaming testament to human ingenuity and defiance, emerged from the blackness. The Council's smug confidence faltered as the endless line of warships filled the void, spreading out like a storm across the heavens. It was the most unexpected sight the galaxy had ever witnessed. Earth's fleet was not only alive, it was larger and more advanced than anything they had ever imagined. Impossible, Zvar muttered again, his voice a whisper of disbelief. The insectoid leader's antennae twitched nervously as the incoming fleet filled the Council's holographic map. His eyes darted to the other leaders, who shared his confusion. Earth had been crippled, or so they thought. The remnants of their major cities had been erased. The once proud military forces were now dust in the wind. The message had gone out, the terms of surrender had been set. Yet here it was, Earth's response. The fleet wasn't just coming. It was arriving with purpose, organized, coordinated, and heavily armed. Alien ships, once thought to be the pinnacle of technological advancement, now felt like toys in the face of this monstrous human armada. Get a closer look, ordered Zvar, his voice a low growl. He tapped his massive claw on the holographic table, and a new image began to materialize. Earth's ships weren't like anything the Council had seen before. They were sleek, efficient, and unerringly precise. A far cry from the disorganized, ragtag fleets they had anticipated. Each ship gleamed with fresh armor, and their weapons glowed with the raw energy of an entire race's fury. The Council couldn't comprehend how Earth had managed this. Their technology was centuries behind. Yet here they were, on the brink of annihilating the fleets that had once been considered invincible. Their technology, it's advanced, murmured one of the Council members, a reptilian creature with glowing eyes. How did they? They must have been hiding it, Zvar interrupted, the harshness of his words cutting through the disbelief. Earth was never as weak as we believed. The humans have always underestimated us, and now they are proving us wrong. As the first wave of ships arrived in full view, Zvar's eyes narrowed. His arrogance had been shattered, and in its place, a sense of urgency and fear began to take hold. He signaled for his warships to prepare for battle, but deep down, he realized it wouldn't be enough. Earth's fleet wasn't just about numbers. It was about skill. It was about a collective will to survive and strike back against those who had written them off. And now, the Council was about to witness just how far humanity would go. On the bridge of Earth's flagship, Admiral Clark stood tall, her eyes scanning the tactical display. Her face was calm, collected, an unyielding presence in the face of the chaos unfolding before her. She could feel the weight of the moment, but it was a burden she had long since accepted. She knew that this day, this battle, would define humanity's place in the galaxy. No longer would they be overlooked. No longer would they be ignored. Comms, send the message to the fleet, Clark ordered, her voice steady but filled with an undeniable intensity. Tell them to hold their positions. No matter what happens, we advance as one. Her orders were followed instantly. Across the vast expanse of Earth's fleet, every ship received the same command. There would be no retreat, no turning back. The battle was on. In the heart of the Galactic Council, the leaders began to fidget nervously as the incoming fleet drew closer. No one knew exactly how this would end. Would the human forces fold under the immense pressure of the combined alien fleets? Or would Earth's soldiers rise up in defiance once again against impossible odds? The silence in the room was broken by a soft beep, and the voice of a communications officer filled the air. Admiral Clark's message is being broadcast to all Council fleets. She's offering terms. A challenge, if you will. Zvar sneered. Terms. He scoffed, his claws tapping rhythmically on the console. Let them speak their foolishness. We'll crush them where they stand. But in the silence that followed, the first salvo from Earth's fleet erupted. A single human ship, its engines glowing bright, fired a bolt of concentrated plasma at an approaching alien vessel. The explosion sent shock waves across the Council's monitors. It was the opening salvo of what would become a galactic war, a war the Galactic Council had never anticipated, but now had no choice but to fight. Zvar watched, his heart pounding in his chest, as the first signs of panic rippled through the alien ranks. This was no longer a simple mission of conquest. This was something far more dangerous, an awakening. And humanity had only just begun to show the galaxy what it was truly capable of. The fight for the galaxy had begun. The first blow hit harder than anyone could have imagined. As the alien fleet scrambled to respond to Earth's unexpected arrival, the galaxy's most powerful military minds quickly learned that humanity had more than just numbers on their side. It wasn't simply about the scale of the ships or the precision of their movements. It was the way Earth's forces fought. There was a ruthless efficiency, an unexpected brilliance to their tactics that immediately disrupted the alien strategies. The human fleet wasn't just advancing, it was dismantling their enemies piece by piece. The very first salvo, fired from Earth's flagship, tore through the hull of a massive alien dreadnought, the explosion visible from a dozen light-years away. The alien ship's destruction was only the beginning. Human ships, once thought to be technologically inferior, performed maneuvers that stunned even the most battle-hardened alien commanders. They danced around the larger, more cumbersome enemy vessels with eerie precision, avoiding fire while launching devastating counterattacks. Zvar, the insectoid leader of the Galactic Council, watched in disbelief as one of his most trusted fleet commanders sent out a panicked distress signal. His own forces were being outclassed. Every battle plan they had developed, every strategy, seemed to crumble under the weight of Earth's tactical brilliance. No longer was Earth simply fighting to survive, it was fighting to win, and it showed in every move they made. "They are adapting," a reptilian council member stammered, staring at the holographic display showing the alien fleet's disarray. "How are they doing this?" Zvar growled, his many eyes narrowing with anger and disbelief. The human fleet was showing signs of advanced coordination, its ships seemingly communicating and anticipating enemy movements with a level of sophistication that no one had expected. Earth's fleet was outgunning them, outmaneuvering them, and doing so with terrifying efficiency. "Stay focused," Zvar barked, slamming his clawed fist onto the console. "They can't sustain this. We'll break them. This is a temporary advantage. They're running on desperation." But Zvar's words rang hollow, even to his own ears. His confidence was crumbling with each passing minute as Earth's fleet rained destruction upon his ships. The humans were fighting not just with advanced technology, but with the desperation and resolve of a species that had been cornered. And the aliens were beginning to realize that Earth was not an easy prey. Back on Earth's flagship, Admiral Clark watched as her fleet executed flawless maneuvers. Her mind worked like clockwork, processing every data point, every new development, every tactical shift. They had known the Council would respond quickly. They were ready for that. But what they hadn't anticipated was just how effective Earth's fleet would be. Clark's eyes didn't leave the screen as she relayed orders to her command staff. "Engage their flanks," Clark commanded. "We break their formations. No mercy." As Earth's ships executed her orders with precision, the alien fleet's structure began to unravel. One ship after another fell, their destruction a brilliant explosion against the blackness of space. The sight was like a wave crashing over an unsuspecting shoreline, each successive crash breaking the strength of the enemy's defenses. Across the council chambers, the mood had shifted. What had been an air of confident superiority was now one of anxiety and panic. The council's commanders scrambled, sending urgent signals for reinforcements, but the reality was sinking in. Earth's fleet wasn't just another adversary. It was a challenge, one the galaxy had never expected from such a primitive species. "We can't win this," a small, frail-looking alien muttered, trembling at the unfolding disaster. "They're too fast, too deadly. How are they doing this?" Zvar's gaze hardened as he observed the destruction, his frustration growing. He had underestimated humanity, and it was becoming clear that it might cost him everything. His forces were falling apart, their numbers dwindling, their morale collapsing. The surprise strike had been calculated, but nothing could have prepared them for the savagery of Earth's response. "We'll have to go to Plan B," Zvar muttered, though even he wasn't sure what that meant anymore. His usual calmness was gone, replaced by something far more dangerous, a sense of desperation. Back in the depths of the human fleet, the commanders exchanged knowing glances. The alien fleet was faltering, and every moment that passed was a moment closer to victory. But there was no time to rest, no time to celebrate. The battle was still far from won, and the stakes were higher than ever. Earth was fighting for its very survival, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The humans had just scratched the surface of what they were capable of. And now, the galaxy was paying the price. The battle had escalated beyond anyone's expectations. The Galactic Council, once certain of their victory, now found themselves reeling. Earth's fleet was proving to be far more than a threat. It was a relentless force, an unstoppable tide of destruction that couldn't be reasoned with. Alien warships, once thought invincible, crumbled under the sheer aggression and precision of humanity's forces. But the Council still didn't understand the full truth of the human response. What they had seen so far was only a glimpse. Inside Earth's flagship, Admiral Clark stood before a tactical display, her fingers tracing the glowing lines of data that flickered across the screen. She had known for a long time that this moment was coming, the moment when humanity would finally show its true strength. But there was more to their victory than just advanced technology and a fierce will to survive. The true strength of Earth's forces lay in something far more fundamental. "Deploy the specials," Clark said, her voice unwavering. She didn't have to explain. Every officer in the room knew exactly what that meant. The specials were Earth's elite warriors, an unsung force of soldiers that had been forged in the fires of 1,000 wars. They were the reason humanity had managed to survive against overwhelming odds for so long. Their training was brutal, their tactics innovative, and their resolve unmatched. These were not just soldiers. They were legends, living proof of the raw power and adaptability of the human spirit. While the main fleet continued to dismantle the alien forces in the background, the specials moved quickly and silently, slipping through the shadows of space and striking at the heart of the Council's most vital targets. Their mission was simple: disrupt, disorient, and destroy. One by one, alien ships were hit with surgical precision, their command centers and weapon systems disabled with military efficiency. What had been a well-coordinated alien fleet now began to crumble from within, as the specials infiltrated their lines and sowed chaos. These soldiers didn't rely on overwhelming numbers. They relied on the element of surprise, tactics that bent the laws of warfare to their will. Zvar, the insectoid leader of the Galactic Council, watched in disbelief as his fleet began to fall apart. His forces were already stretched thin, and now the sabotage from within threatened to push them over the edge. His eyes flicked to the tactical map, where the human fleet's sudden advantage was becoming too much to ignore. The alien command centers on the outer rim of the galaxy were being destroyed one by one, and there was no way to stop it. His own fleets were too scattered, too disjointed. "They've got to be using something we don't know about," Zvar muttered. His fingers hovered over the console, his mind racing. The strategy he had relied on for so long was slipping away, and he could feel the weight of his failure creeping up on him. "Commander, their infiltration teams are moving faster than we expected," one of Zvar's officers said, his voice shaking. "We're losing control of critical sectors." Zvar slammed his fist onto the control panel. "You think I don't know that?" Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the alien fleets, Earth specials continued their work. They had only one goal: take down the leaders, cripple their infrastructure, and leave nothing behind but a shattered enemy. It was a brutal form of warfare that the Council had never encountered. No one could predict the moves of the specials. No one knew where they would strike next. Clark stood silently on the bridge of her ship, watching the destruction unfold across the galaxy. She felt no pride, no thrill of conquest. This wasn't a game. This was survival, pure and simple. Earth had been pushed to the brink, and now it was fighting back with everything it had. The battle, however, was only beginning. "They're collapsing," one of Clark's officers said, voice filled with awe. "The Council doesn't know how to respond." Clark nodded slowly. They never did. They thought we were just another prey species. They were wrong. The Council had underestimated humanity in every way possible. They had assumed Earth's technology was outdated, its tactics predictable, and its people weak. But humanity's strength wasn't just in the ships they commanded or the weapons they wielded. It was in their ability to adapt, to think, and to fight against impossible odds. The Specials, part of humanity's backbone, were the epitome of this strength. They were born from desperation and forged in the darkest corners of Earth's history. They knew what it meant to be pushed to the edge and to rise again. Now, they were showing the galaxy exactly what that meant. Zvar, his mind frantic, turned his gaze toward the holographic display. The reality of his situation was becoming undeniable. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were the force to be reckoned with, and nothing could stop them now. And as Earth's fleet pressed on, Zvar realized the truth that would haunt the galaxy forever. Humanity was not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for dominance. And the Council's reign was about to come to a bitter end. It was no longer just a battle. It was a full-scale war. The Galactic Council, which had once commanded the galaxy with overwhelming superiority, now found itself at the breaking point. Earth's fleet had shattered their lines, torn apart their command structure, and left their allies questioning their once unshakable power. The stakes were higher now than ever before. No longer could the Council's forces rely on overwhelming numbers or superior firepower. They were running out of options, and Earth's fury had only just begun. On the bridge of Earth's flagship, Admiral Clark stood with a cold, calculating gaze. The atmosphere was tense, but Clark didn't flinch. Her every command was precise, every decision made with the weight of 100,000 soldiers' lives on her shoulders. The last few hours had been a blur of battles and victories, but she knew this was far from over. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see if Earth's audacity could be sustained. "Prepare for the next phase," Clark ordered, her voice unwavering. "We're taking the fight directly to their homeworlds." Her officers exchanged a brief glance, but none dared question her. They had seen what Earth's fleet was capable of. They had seen the alien forces crumble under their might. And now they knew that the humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to win. In the heart of the Galactic Council, the mood had shifted dramatically. The once proud leaders now faced the reality of defeat. Zvar, the insectoid leader, sat hunched over a communications console, his many eyes wide with panic. His forces were scattered, and Earth's fleet was methodically picking off the last vestiges of his military power. Every attempt to regroup was met with swift retaliation. "How did this happen?" Zvar hissed, his voice tight with frustration. "How can they be so relentless?" The Council's War Council, a group of seasoned tacticians from across the galaxy, offered little comfort. Their faces were grim, their morale shattered. The human fleet's tactics were unconventional, unpredictable, and brutal. Every time the Council thought they had a plan, the humans adapted, countering their moves with ease. "They're using tactics we've never seen," a young officer said, shaking his head in disbelief. "We're losing our edge." Zvar slammed his fist onto the console, rattling the holographic map. "They cannot be allowed to win. We cannot let them." But even as he spoke, his words faltered. The reality of the situation was undeniable. Earth's fleet wasn't just a nuisance, it was a force of nature. The galaxy's most advanced warships had been brought to their knees by human ingenuity and relentless willpower. On Earth's side, the battle had taken an even darker turn. The Specials, humanity's elite warriors, had been unleashed like a weapon of mass destruction. Their mission was simple: strike at the heart of the enemy. And they were succeeding beyond anyone's expectations. Entire alien fleets were disintegrating as human special forces infiltrated their most vital systems. They hit where it hurt the most, crippling enemy warships, sabotaging supply lines, and dismantling entire armies before they even had a chance to respond. Admiral Clark knew that their time was now. They had pushed the Council to the brink, but the final blow had yet to be delivered. Their plan was audacious. Earth's fleet would now press directly into the heart of the Council's territory, not just to defeat them, but to show the galaxy that humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. The next move would be the most dangerous yet. "Do it," Clark ordered. "Launch the assault." The fleet responded like clockwork, their movements synchronized in a dance of destruction. The first wave of ships, smaller but faster than the enemy, darted through the Council's defensive lines, striking their critical infrastructure with surgical precision. Earth's forces didn't just win battles. They took the fight to the heart of the enemy's empire. Zvar's jaw clenched as he watched the live feeds. He knew that if they didn't act quickly, his empire would collapse under the weight of Earth's relentless assault. His once proud fleets were being torn apart, his defensive lines broken, and every attempt to regroup met with devastating counterattacks. "They're unstoppable," Zvar muttered, his voice filled with an anger he couldn't hide. "We've underestimated them. This ends now." But the truth was undeniable. The Council's reign was slipping through their fingers, and no amount of reinforcements or military strategy could turn the tide. The galaxy was changing, and the question that now echoed in the minds of every leader, every soldier, was clear. How far would humanity go? With every ship that fell and every strategic victory, the answer became more certain. Earth was not just fighting to survive. They were fighting to claim their place among the stars. The silence that followed the final battle was deafening. For the Galactic Council, the war had been one they never anticipated. Once, they had ruled the galaxy with an iron fist, their might unchallenged and their dominance unquestioned. But now, as the last remnants of their fleets drifted into the void, there was only one undeniable truth. The balance of power had shifted. Earth had come from the fringes of the galaxy, a once overlooked species, and had ripped the throne of the stars from the Council's grasp. And now, nothing would ever be the same. On Earth's flagship, Admiral Clark stood in front of a massive holographic display, watching the fleet's final moves with steely eyes. The Council's forces were scattered, their command centers decimated, and their leaders in full retreat. The tide had turned, and Earth was on the cusp of an unprecedented victory. "Prepare for the final assault," Clark commanded, her voice calm but filled with the weight of 1,000 battles fought and won. "We end this now." Her officers moved swiftly, executing her orders with precision. The final stage of their campaign had begun. Earth's fleet was closing in on the heart of the Galactic Council's remaining strongholds, and it would take nothing short of total annihilation to ensure the Council's power was completely eradicated. Back within the Council's chambers, the leaders who had once gleamed with pride now trembled in fear. Zvar, the insectoid leader, sat at the head of the table, his body rigid with tension. The once formidable leader had seen his empire fracture, his fleets dismantled, and his command crumble. What had started as a calculated campaign to destroy Earth had spiraled into an unstoppable nightmare. His forces were gone. His allies had fled. And now, there was no escaping the consequences of his arrogance. "Is this it?" a voice whispered in the back of the room. It was a trembling alien who had been a vocal supporter of the war. "Have we lost?" Zvar's eyes flashed with frustration. He had never been one to show weakness, but now, surrounded by the wreckage of his empire, there was little left to cling to. His mind raced, but the options were all too clear. Earth had won. The galaxy was changing, and they were powerless to stop it. "We'll negotiate," Zvar finally growled, his voice barely a whisper. "We'll offer them a treaty. They'll want peace." But deep down, even Zvar knew the truth. The humans had no interest in peace. Not now, not after everything the Council had done. They had seen the darkness of the galaxy, the brutality of the Council's reign, and now they were ready to claim what they had been denied for so long. Too late came the voice of another Council member, one who had been silent throughout the war. "Earth's demands are not for peace. They've come for power. They will not settle for anything less than our complete surrender." In that moment, Zvar knew that the game was over. The Council's final bastion had fallen, and Earth's forces were closing in on the heart of their empire. Their remaining fleets had scattered, and there was no one left to stop them. Admiral Clark stood in front of her bridge's panoramic viewport, watching as Earth's fleet descended upon the Council's last stronghold. It was the final confrontation, the final moment when the fate of the galaxy would be sealed. Earth's forces had fought not only for their survival, but for a future in which they would no longer be pawns in someone else's game. "Prepare to land the peacekeepers," Clark ordered. "We're not just here to conquer. We're here to rebuild." The human fleet entered the final stretch, their ships cutting through the stars with a newfound purpose. As they closed in on the alien capital, Clark could see the trembling remnants of the Galactic Council's forces retreating, their final defenses crumbling before the might of Earth's fleet. The moment had arrived. Zvar, the Council, the entire galaxy, had underestimated Earth's resolve. Now, it was time for humanity to claim its place in the stars. The old order was dying, and a new, far more terrifying power was rising from the ashes. As Earth's fleet descended upon the heart of the Galactic Council's empire, the weight of the past was undeniable. No longer would humanity be the weak, overlooked species. No longer would they bow to the whims of alien overlords. They had fought, bled, and risen to claim their future. The war was over. Earth had won. And the galaxy would never forget the day humanity showed it what true power looked like.